Thank you, Team Plea, and for giving me this beautiful opportunity to speak in front of the amazing audience. Hope you everyone must be having a lovely, amazing weekend. But along with that, we would like to, before everybody wraps up their Saturday, we would like to share some insights on CSR as the topic is on corporate social responsibility. I have been allocated 50 to 55 minutes of this session to speak on the concept of CSR. It's a very wide domain, though it was made effective and compulsory from 2013, but you can go on and on hours and hours for this. So I always prefer setting my timer up so that I can wrap up on time and touch on the main constraints and also have a proper Q&A session in the last, whatever answers I can reply. Okay, now I'll be dividing this session. It's into three series, basically three categories. First, we'll be touching upon what is the meaning, the concept, and the purpose of CSR, and especially CSR in India. What has been the legal framework and compliances, and especially the amendments which were brought down since in 2020 because of the pandemic. And lastly, what are the skills and the brush-up skills which the fresh lawyers and who are pursuing their law. This is an amazing field or a domain to enter into because it's a 7 to 8 years of field. So we'll also be touching upon that. What are the skills? What are the key things you can, add on to your resume and as in practice as well. Okay, now the concept of CSR, we are starting with the first one. The concept of CSR. Anybody would like to just let's make it interactive because I can just see the names on the screen. What do you think when the word CSR or the corporate social responsibility comes to your mind? Anyone can answer, please.
Ma'am, according to me, corporate social responsibility is basically a philanthropic side of a company. Like a company, when we say company, it is basically involved in making profits, making business. But then there has to be an obligation to the society where you are running your business. So that side is served by the CSR, in my opinion.
Very true, Krupa. You completely nailed it, and thank you for the quick response. Okay, now when you think of the word corporate social responsibility, it's basically when a company is having its operations, it's not just meant to just plow out the profits and pay their employees well. When a company is doing good, it's expected to give something back to the society. And this is what the concept of CSR emerges. We'll come to the legislation portion after this. But it comes from different sociological settings of each era to influence way businesses adopt a more considerate and responsible behavior. If you think in the earlier business of 1990s or 80s, there were welfare activities which were carried out by companies, be it in India or be it outside to other countries also. So welfare programs and activity may be for their local community where the factories or the companies were located. The philanthropic activities, as Krupa already said, integrating the interest of the business with that of the community, which is already serving this. So by exhibiting the social face or the social personality, environmental and ethical be responsible behavior and governance of its operations, business definitely can generate value and long-term sustainability. And there has been research, and even the researchers say if definitely the corporate social responsibility, or even if you are giving back to the society, it definitely enhances the brand image of a company because you are doing something good. You will get the customer loyalty to you. For example, just since my childhood, if I recollect till date, I have not switched over from Tata Namak or Tata Salt bolte hain till any other salt. There are many numerous of salts in the market, but I don't know. I could never shift. I mean, even as there's something as a mental block which I tried one or two different companies, but that didn't. I found my mind just told me there is some other lacuna, so I just shifted back to Tata Namak. It's not just because of that salt, that specifications, or I don't know what they have the USP, but it's the loyalty. It's about the philanthropic activities which this company has been doing since years. So that was one of the the customer loyalty, because of their, not just because of their business, but what they have, they always give back to the society. This is just one of the examples. And if you just if you go back time immemorial in the holy scriptures or our books, scriptures, be it Ramayana, be it Mahabharata, be it Bhagavad Gita, even since our childhood, we always have been taught that you are supposed to do something good, keep on doing something good, not just earn money or not just get well educated. This is our Indian scenario. Okay. Now the principles of CSR, they didn't just come out they were not just ingrained in the Companies Act 2013. Earlier, there was no specific what I would call law for this. But if you just go back a few years down the line, prior to 2013, there were like 2009. The MCA, that's the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, had come out with the voluntary guidelines on the corporate social responsibility. Then there were many, I would say, many in 2011. Then the guidelines were upgraded to the National Guiding Principles on the Business and Human Rights. Then 2018, and so and so. Finally, 2013, when the Companies Act 2013 was made effective in April 2014, India is one of the first country to make CSR mandatory as a part of its legislation. So if you just check it or research it, I mean, we should be proud of that. We are one of the very first countries to introduce social responsibility mandatory. This is what I wanted to cover in the very purpose or the concept of CSR. Then also I would like to touch upon, there were in NGRBC, these were the national voluntary guidelines which were introduced by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in 2011 on social, environmental, economic responsibilities, where there were like 9 principles which were laid down. I will not quote the entire principles because the law is known to everybody nowadays. So just one or two of the principles I would like to bring to your notice. For example, the businesses should be conducted and govern themselves with integrity, ethical and transparent manner, and be accountable for the same. One of the principles also said that the businesses should respect and promote human rights. And also one of them, businesses should engage with and provide value to their customers in responsible manner. When we come to move on to the second concept of CSR legislation in India, it deals with Section 135 of the Companies Act. Now, Section 135 cannot be just read in one compartment. You need to refer to the rules, the CSR rules, and the Schedule 7, because Schedule 7 basically will touch upon what are the activities which a company can do as a CSR activity. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's basically it's an all-inclusive list. So you need to justify what category you want to stick to, or under what head you want to come out with the CSR activities. Now, the first question which might be coming to your mind is, okay, now we are clear with the concept, what is the purpose of CSR. When this legislation was made compulsory or was made introduced under 2013 Act, what type of companies would need to comply with CSR? Is that the very question which is running into your mind? If anyone can answer me, any idea what type of companies would it be applicable to every type of company under the Companies Act, or to selective companies? If anyone would like to respond.
Any company under the Companies Act can go for it. Any initiative they want to take as qualified and prescribed under the Companies Act. Section 135 read with Schedule 7. USA, it's a little different, but more or less the principles are pretty similar. So any social cause, be it food drive, blood donation drive, as long as you can attribute it very clearly to the defined CSR activity. So any company can go for that, as if Companies Act is applicable.
Thank you, Ashit, very much. Okay, now if we refers to the legal drafting of Section 135, it basically covers to any type of company, as Ashit rightly said, be it a private limited, be it a listed company, unlisted public company, or a Section 8. Okay, any company which is incorporated under that act. But the main criteria there'll be like 2 criteria. First of all, you need to judge whether you are coming under the category, whether CSR is applicable to you. Based on there are 3 criteria. The first is if the company is having a net worth of 500 crores or more, or that's the second one, turnover of 1,000 crores or more, or third one would be a net profit of 5 crores or more. So, or more during the immediate preceding financial year. So that is step number one. And if you are coming in any one of these criteria, no matter what type of company you are, you would be required to spend the second step will be, first you will be required to constitute a CSR committee. And then third will be, you need to spend 2% of the average net profits of the immediate preceding 3 financial years as the CSR activity. There were recent amendments in Jan 2021, whereby the CSR, when it was introduced in 2013, the main intention was there was no penalty clause. It was just stating that either you comply with or you explain. So in case of the companies who couldn't comply with, they needed to justify the very reason in their director's report. But effective from 22nd Jan 2021, there were amendments which were brought in, and from comply or explain, the shift has now been made. Either you comply or you pay the penalty. So the penalty now it's applicable to the company itself in case if they are not doing the CSR activity properly, or any non-compliance, and also to the officer in default. So this is when the CSR legal framework applies to. And when we come to the CSR committee, when the committee needs to be formed, when you need to constitute a committee, it will be basically comprising of 3 directors. One of them, if your company is a listed company, then you would need one person as an independent director as one of the committee members, and the remaining 2 can be the normal directors. But in case if you're an unlisted public company, or other than the listed company, and you are not bound by having that independent director on board, a normal 3 directors can form a part of that CSR committee. So having regards that, CSR expenses have been a philanthropic in nature and not wholly or exclusive in the nature of business expenditure. There were many FAQs which were, the ministry had come out initially when the section was made effective, and especially to the during the last pandemic. I'll be covering that too in the next category. And even the recent FAQs dated 25th August 2021, whereby crystal clear, the government, the ministry has made crystal clear what are the things will be covered as CSR activity, what will it not be covered, what are the implementations which you need to do. Okay, now when we come to the CSR legal framework, we have already covered the criteria. What is the 2% spending criteria, the committee which you need to form. And during last year when the lockdown was there, many philanthropic activities, I'm not talking about the pandemic or the oxygen cylinders and all, but the donations to the NGOs and the CSR activities had continuously declined because of the earning capacity, you can say. But two to three notifications were introduced by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs along with a list of FAQs, whereby in this CSR policy, there were certain categories which were added or they could be covered as CSR activity. So for example, if the company had provided during last year under COVID situation, had provided hospital beds or had provided the oxygen cylinders or masks, this would be considered as a CSR activity. Also, one of the points which I would like to touch upon, there were like 3 circulars. One was dated 23rd March 2020, whereby the ministry had clarified this activity, if you are doing any donation activity or which is for the COVID activity purpose, it will be considered as CSR. Then on 28th March 2020, the ministry came out with another office memo stating that you must have heard about this PM CARES fund. I hope everyone must have heard about that because that was in news since last year. PM CARES funds is the Prime Minister's Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situation Fund, which is like the PM CARES fund. That will be falling within the ambit of the respective schedule 7 of the Act and would qualify as a CSR expenditure. However, there was like a big hue and cry because many corporates had made the donations towards the state, the Chief Minister's Relief Fund. So it was when the ministry came on 10th April 2020, came out with a series of FAQs. They clearly said ki, if you are making any contributions or donations toward the CM relief fund, that will not be considered as a CSR activity. Otherwise, hence in that same very FAQ, it was also further clarified that the contribution which was made to SDMA, that is the State Disaster Management Authority, that would qualify as a CSR activity. So this is one of the contradictory this thing, and it was very much in news because the state government was saying ki why the the preference is given to the PM care funds and not the Chief Minister Relief Fund. And it was like in contrast that you could make the donations to SDMA, that is the State Disaster Fund, and that would qualify as a CSR. So few of the states, if I am not wrong, they had received funds in the CM Relief Fund, that's the Chief Minister's Relief Fund. So what they did, once they received the corpus, they transferred it to SDMA. So one or two states in India, they did that. Their government did that strategy so that the CSR activity would the activities would be carried out smoothly, and it would further also qualify as CSR expenditure. Also, in the FAQs of 10th April 2020, one of the things, if you're one of the clarity which the ministry had come out is, if your payment of salary or wages to employees, workers, temporary or daily wages workers during the lockdown will not qualify as a CSR expenditure, because that is basically the statutory obligation of the company to make sure that their employees' salary and wages are released, are paid on time, because that's how their home runs, that's how they are earning. However, an exception to this was any ex gratia payment made to our temporary or casual workers or daily wages over and above their wages, the disbursement of their wages, especially which would be for the purpose of fighting of the COVID, would be considered as a CSR expenditure. This was a one-time exception. However, this was subject to certain restrictions or certain pre-criteria. For example, the auditor's report would need to certify that this was an ex gratia payment, which would be on ground reality. It might really become difficult for an auditor and for a company to clarify whether it's an ex gratia payment or not. So this was covering upon the CSR and the COVID situation during the pandemic. These were the FAQs and the series of notifications which they had come out with. Next, when we try to come to the skills required for a lawyer to be CSR consultant. Now this space, this domain is almost in India since 2013, it's 7 to 8 years old domain. But companies now have started, even companies, small-sized companies, not necessarily the big companies, they are very much into the CSR activities. But this industry is really a space which is still unexplored, because still there are not many consultants or advisors, whether in-house or as a consultants. Although it is often confused with an environmental science, it's completely not, because it's a different niche. You always don't need to be in the capacity of a HR or marketing or supply or any other department to get into this consultants. What are the skills which are required will be like few of them, which I usually recommend to my audiences. First of all, get yourself certified. Now, the certification in India, one of the institute which we recommend is the IICA, that is Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. They have their 5-day workshop, 3-month workshop, 1-year course, so that basically brings you or makes you aware about what does this concept deal with, what are the ground realities, what are the things you need to keep in mind. When you are either if you're acting as an in-house consultant or as a legal advisor, as a outside consultant with them. You need to acquire a cutting edge knowledge, because the law keeps on changing, as every one of us is a lawyer out here. You need to have what are the CSR reportings which needs to be done, what are the legislations, what are the recent amendments, because the major chunk of amendments when Companies Act, the amendment 2019, last year not last year, last to last year, when the amendments were introduced, they were placed in for public comments also, whereby the penalty, the jail provision also, when the amendment was placed, it was not notified. The jail provision also was provided in the draft rules. And when finally the amendments in 2020 came into picture, effective from 22nd Jan, it was just either you comply or you pay the fine. The jail provision or the imprisonment provision was removed. So that's the reason, keeping updated with the law. And you will not find many professionals who are into, as of now, because when a company is there, the company or the board which is running the company or their team may not be aware about the each and every nitty-gritties of the CSR compliances. So only professionals like you and me can help the companies to, what are the points you need to do when you're drafting the policies, and what is the ground rule. Because here the government, when they introduced the amendments, they said the government is not going to monitor each and everything. The main purpose was, maintaining that the company is accountable, is monitoring, self-monitor, self-govern, and be accountable for whatever you are doing. So that's the reason, if you check the latest amendments of 22nd Jan 2021, the implementing agencies, how the CSR activities needs to be done, and what if you are exceeding the 2% criteria of the spending this needs. So all this, you need to be regularly updated. So it doesn't, if you have studied it's in the month of September, so you can't say that you know everything, because it's what is the history, what is the background, what has been the journey or the key milestones of this section. This section itself is a very big chapter. You can't just restrict it to one section, you need to join the dots. And also, like, keep yourself upgrading. Networking is important, and we need to have the skills to meet the stakeholders' expectation. As we all are aware that stakeholder activism has increased a lot in the past few years, and especially it has increased by leaps and bounds since the last pandemic, because anybody, any member, any stakeholder could just attend the members meeting or the AGMs sitting virtually anywhere in the world. So hence they need accountability, they need transparency. Why aren't you giving back to the society? They just don't need dividends anymore. This is what the stakeholders activism has shown. If you see the recent the resolutions of companies whereby the one of the directors' appointment or reappointment was not was rejected by the shareholders. So there have been many instances. So hence, they always insist on what are we giving back to the society. Not, they just don't want this, the shareholders or the stakeholders, they just don't want dividend. But the thing is, what we can do good for the community and especially for your country. So these are one of few of the skills. Then employment relations. The reason is because you would be coordinating with the CSR committee, if their internal CSR committee, and it's not necessary the CSR committee will be only of the people who belong to a law background or a commerce background. There might be a person who is belonging from marketing, might be someone from HR, might be a chemical engineer from a science background. So this is how the way we communicate. The communication skills needs to be, we need to simplify the law and explain it to them. And what are the legislations which are active? The labor laws. Now, as we all are aware, the code of wages and everything would be coming soon into picture, and maybe like certain portions have been made effective. So we need to be aware not just in one compartment of the CSR, but also the labor legislations. And especially when you are entering this domain, definitely our country, what does the Indian laws, the laws of the land say? And when you are entering an international domain beyond India to other countries, because different countries will have different legislation. So that's the second step, number 2. Safeguarding the well-being and what company, what business the company is into. You need to understand what the company does, and because based on what the company does, you will be able to guide the client, guide the committee and the board. What are the things which we can cover in while drafting the CSR policy. Social studies and gender balance, because major integration of the women into the workforce will require these employees to have a profound understanding of the gender dynamics and also an in-depth knowledge of successful practices, because there will be very much activities which, as per the Schedule 7, you might be covering upon women education and women empowerment and all these criteria also. Mediation skills is one of the pointers which we always like to strengthen upon, because it's crucial for I mean, for the freshers and for us to, for handling of the inquiries from the organization. So when the board asks us the queries or the CSR committee have any queries, and that will be like an add-on value if you are getting into this domain as a CSR consultant. This will encourage and smoothen the dialogue exchange of different parties. And if you are able to convert it into a simple layman's language, not the the legal jargons, this will be definitely helping out in ironing out the conflicts and the queries. Monitoring and evaluation skills, because as I already earlier said, that the government will not be interfering until unless you are not complying. You should be ready to pay that fine. But it's basically self-monitoring. The company has to self-monitor and self-govern and be accountable at the same point of time. So if you're allocating certain 2% of the funds for your activities, the CSR committee and the committee which is implementing the very same at the ground root level needs to be accountable for every single penny, where the funds are going, whether the project is getting progress or not, and whether for very purpose the funds have been allocated, they are being utilized or not. That's one of the pointers. And key performance indicators, it's also recommended to measure and report the progress. So where you started, there's a concept of AAP, that is Annual Action Plan, in the new amended laws effective from Jan 21, which states that it's always advisable to for the companies in the beginning of their financial year to have their AAP in place. So for example, if you're having a board meeting and along with that your CSR committee, the CSR committee basically needs to come out with an annual action plan, which will be lasting for till the end of the financial year. What is the CSR activities, what you are planning to do as per the policy this year, what is the budget allocation, and who will be whether if you're getting associated with an NGO, it's a registered NGO, or under the laws it says implementing agency, that is the IA. So all this, the annual action plan, it's always advisable to so that the roadmap is designed or finalized in the beginning of the financial year. It really smoothens out this. Coming to the last, one of the next pointers is the CSR, the career prospects. Now, as I already said, this is a very still it's the greener pastures are still there, and it's a very unexplored domain yet, because companies definitely need to hire in-house people, in-house legal counsel, and also consultants to give them the right advice, to guide them in the right direction. And whether it's the HR managers or administrative managers or marketing and communication, who usually generally end up in the CSR department or the committee. Lawyers, you lawyers will be definitely, if you enter the CSR domain, would be like a add-on benefit. And if you extra, you take this as an extra niche and you add this to your domain of practice, it will definitely be not just look impressive on your resume, but definitely will take you by leaps and bounds, your career to the next level. There has been a research, certain reports based on the data which is available in the public domain. For example, approximately 16,000 companies which were falling under the threshold limit of CSR, and which could, result in a generation of approximately 22,000 crores of CSR activity. And for managing this, you need CSR professionals. So that's the reason, if you are planning to enter in this domain, it's really the right time is right away. Now, one of the portions which also I would like to touch upon is the amendments, the recent amendments which had come in Jan 2021. Just few of the pointers I would like to highlight. Basically, whatever the CSR funds have been allocated now, effective from April 2021, a CFO certification would be required on the CSR funds dispersal and utilization. That's the reason the government has said that you need to self-govern, monitor, and be accountable for it, whatever CSR activity or whatever CSR budgets you are planning. Frame a deeper, well-defined and specific CSR policy in keeping in mind the recent amendments, and broader roles and responsibility, not just a tick box compliance or just a very restrictive thing, including, as I already covered, that annual action plan, whatever things you need to do it in 1 year. Coming to the next one, touching upon the next point is the CSR spends, consolidates the erstwhile clarifications on excluded activities. There were certain exceptions, as I clarified, which were made for COVID-19 and related R&D. So for example, if the company is into R&D since last year, research and development for the medicines or certain which will benefit the society and the country at large. So if it is falling within that respective pre-criteria, it will be eligible to gain the CSR benefit or the exemption for 2020 financial year 2021, 22, 23 for the 3 years. Also, permission to acquire or create capital assets subject to assets being owned by NGO, project beneficiaries, or a public authority. One of the key important points which was brought in with this because of this amendment was there were 2 categories which were made. If a company is already having a CSR ongoing project, what will be the status quo because of this amendment? And if the company doesn't have any ongoing project, so for example, what's an ongoing project? If it is in the process of building a school in a village for the kids, for the underprivileged kids or something, and the project is yet to be completed or might take another year or 2. So in that category, if the company's activity is falling, what it needs to do, and if there is no currently ongoing project as on, because these rules were made effective on April 2021. So if there is no ongoing project, then what are the things if you need to do? Just to simplify, just coming back to the ongoing project thing, if you had an ongoing project, and if there is any unspent, so if you see the deadline, 22nd Jan 2021 till the year ending of March 2021, there were hardly 2 months. And also the second lockdown had become effective in March 2021. So companies couldn't waste even a single minute, and they had to be quick on their toes. If we have any ongoing project, because the law says if you have any ongoing project and if there is still funds which are still unutilized towards the CSR activity, you need to, from the date of the financial year ending, that is 31st March 2021, within 30 days, you need to transfer that unutilized amount. So for example, you were supposed to, in a simple language, if the company was supposed to shell out till 31st March, 100 rupees it had allocated for the CSR activity, and 80 rupees only could be utilized till 31st March 2021. So the law says the remaining 20 rupees is supposed to be transferred in the company's account itself, but it will be under the head of unspent CSR funds account, and that 20 rupees will be separately kept. The company cannot utilize that. And when the new financial year, that is 1st April 2021 starts, the CSR budget allocation, if the company is still coming under the CSR budget allocation, the 20 rupees would be a carry forward amount. So when the new financial year starts of 21-22, and the CSR amount which the budget is coming to based on their calculation of 2%, it's coming to 100 rupees. The company cannot say that it will set off that 20 rupees of carry forward and make an allocate 80 rupees more. No, the act says that 20 rupees plus your 100 rupees for this financial year, which you were supposed to spend, which adds up to 120 rupees. This is as simple as that. Now, this was one criteria. The second criteria is, in case if you didn't had any, the companies till 31st March or till Jan 21 didn't have any unspent amount, or there was not unspent amount, there was no ongoing project. So in that scenario, the companies were given the time till 30th September 2021, which is this coming week till Thursday, to transfer the fund if anything which is unutilized and they couldn't do it because of the pandemic or due to whatever reasons. If they have that 100 rupees in their account, within 6 months from the end of the financial year, they have to transfer it to the respective any of the categories of which is bifurcated in Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, not in unspent CSR account, but that amount would really go to the Schedule 7 category. So this was one of the key changes. Hence the reason we have been even on social medias, we have been reminding everybody, in case if you have unspent amount, please just make sure till 30th September 2021, you just transfer it as per the schedule. Then mandatory impact assessment. Now, impact assessment is the IA, which is like any form of, if the company is hiring any NGO. NGO may be either in a form of a Section 8 company or a trust or a society. So in case there'll be like two options. The company plans to do CSR in-house or they have their own foundation which is doing the CSR activity. Or the company might hire a NGO. They will transfer the funds to that NGO, that allocated budget of say 100 crores or whatever, and that NGO will not keep the funds with them, but that will be the implementing agency. That NGO needs to execute the activity on the ground root level. So for example, if a school making or a hospital construction or underprivileged children's education, so that funds will be transferred to that implementing agency this. However, if the amounts which the company is transferring, the company is spending more than 10 crores or above on an average in past 3 financial years, it will be required to undertake an assessment of its projects, which will be as per the prescribed guidelines. And the mandatory assessment is basically you will be accountable. The accountability and the reporting would be compulsory. One more addition which I would like to touch upon is as per the amendment, the companies can now avail expertise of specified UN projects, UN organizations for their project designing, monitoring, and evaluation of capacity building of personnel. And last point, the implementing agencies for the CSR activity, they mandatorily had to do 2 portions. One is the 12A ATG registration, which is required under the Income Tax Act. Because so that whatever benefits or whatever donations you are receiving, that will be exempted and that will be covered under the income tax perspective. And also under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs guideline, you would be required to report in the form of a CSR 1. So for example, if company A has given or transferred the funds or is planning to allocate the CSR funds of 100 crores to a NGO, that NGO, before it accepts the funds, needs to register itself mandatory as a CSR implementing agency by that respective e-form on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And also the 12A and ATG registration is must before it accepts the funds and starts the activity at the ground root level. Ashit already had one query with regards to the penalty.
Yes, yeah. And I have one more question, ma'am. You said about the certification from Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs or Efforts?
It's IICA, sir. It's Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. That's basically the part of Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And for whether they have the MSME certification, they have many corporate certifications which they conduct virtually or in person. You can just check on the net, Google.
Okay, thank you.
IICA, Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now coming to the penalty point, because earlier I said that it was either comply or you explain in your director's report, but now it is either you comply or pay the fine. The imprisonment thing is not being made effective. It was completely removed because if you get time at your comfort, just check 2019, if I'm not wrong, Honorable Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman's this speech on CSR. It is there on the Lok Sabha channel, if I'm not wrong. It's there in the public domain. So whereby there was she was introducing these amendments in 2019, and what were the FAQs or what were the question answer session which was conducted, and because of this, when it became the corporate India basically rose a question why you want to have that imprisonment thing, because if companies are doing it, it's compulsory. You are doing it well, so it was because of this public pressure, the imprisonment portion was removed. You can definitely check it. It's very interesting. The Q&A session in the Lok Sabha. Okay, now coming to the penalty clause, which I couldn't cover. It's basically if it's a company which is defaulting, it's liable for the lesser amount of 1 crore or twice the amount that should have been transferred to the unspent CSR amount, whichever is on the lower end. And additionally, if a defaulting officer or an officer in default will be liable for a penalty of 2 lakhs, or it says or, not and, or 1/10 of the amount that should have been transferred to the unspent CSR account or the Schedule 7 specified fund.
If as a company, if I contribute to the mitigation of risk to the climate change, say decarbonization technology or CCPS technology, any contribution I make towards that, would that qualify under the, approved CSR
If
activities?
that is, Ashit, if that is coming under that Schedule 7, because Schedule 7, it says it's not an exhaustive list, but it is well justified in that one of the categories, definitely it would qualify as a CSR. So hence, we always recommend whenever the policy is being drafted or whenever the activities are being planned, what type of activities the company intends to do. So it's always advisable to first check the Schedule 7 and then, just try correlating it to it. And if it should fall within that ambit, and then it's good to go, because it shouldn't happen that you have done that activity and then later the committee is checking back, oh no, it was not falling in that category.
So my first question is, should CSR be made voluntary in India, and where do we need to improve?
Okay. Now, first of all, CSR is no more voluntary in India. Prior to 2013, it was the voluntary guidelines which were introduced in 2009. But effective from 2013, when the section became effective in April 2014, it is a mandatory compliance. You have to do it because it has been made a part of your legislation. It has been made a part of your Companies Act. And as I already said, that India is one of the first countries in the world to make it mandatory, compulsory, and not voluntary.
Okay, so ma'am, the second question that I have is, how often a lawyer is a part of CSR committee?
It depends upon whether you are an in-house counsel or a consultant, but definitely, even if you are on both the sides, either of the sides, they would be definitely needing us as a CSR consultant or a strategy to do the right drafting policy, to clarify and simplify what does the regulation say, whether we fall in that respective schedule if a company intends to, have the CSR activity. So checking the laws, what are the recent amendments or what are the latest clarity what the ministry has come out with. So definitely, if you are a lawyer, whether you are in-house or whether you are as a consultant, this is definitely a win-win on both of the end for professionals like us, because board of directors or even the CSR committee, not necessary that everybody will be like professionals who are dealing in day out with CSR.
Okay, and the third question is, what is the role of a fresh law graduate in executing before or while executing the CSR project? Can it be a full-time job or it's a project-based advisory?
Initially, if you are a fresher, what we usually recommend, first of all, we need to understand what is the concept, what is the base or the foundation of this law, what are the companies, what are their expectations when they hire the consultants, and they just need it from the drafting perspective. There also might be a requirement where you need to get the projects implemented at a certain stage at the ground root level. The CSR audits are also recommended, because when you are spending amounts which is running into crores, so definitely every single penny would be accountable for. So CSR audit is one of them, CSR opinion making. And in case if you are associated with NGOs who specialize into specific CSR activities and who are tied up with the corporates, you can, it depends upon if you are associated with them on pro bono basis or even as a full-time lawyer, it will be definitely a win-win for you and for a learning experience. So it's not only for the implementation, but every type of aspect would be there. So be it drafting from the corporate angle, be it allocating the budgets, on what basis the budgets have been done. Then audits, the CSR audit is also one of the good domains you can focus upon. The CSR policy is there. Then if you get into the tie-ups with the implementing agencies, that's the NGOs who are executing or implementing the same at the ground root level. That also is a good aspect to work with.
Okay, and then the question is, what are the tools to communicate the CSR activities? The Act says that it has to be uploaded on the website of the company, but what if the company do not have any website?
If they don't have any website, the same is always required to be disclosed in their annual reports, because annual reports is one thing which you need to mandatorily submit every every year ending within 6 months to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and that is in public domain. So in case if the company doesn't have website, definitely your reporting would definitely be forming a part of your annual report.
Okay, ma'am. And the last question that I have is it conducted once in 3 years or it is conducted every year? CSR projects, CSR activities, it is mandatory to conduct CSR in India. So is it mandatory to conduct it once in 3 years or every year?
Okay. Now, every year, for example, if we are in the beginning of 1st April 2021, your previous financial year would be covering from April 20 till 31st March 2021, because you cannot have a future year, just to simplify it. So your preceding financial year, at least by March 2021, the company, it's not 3 years or something. It's basically when the calculation comes into picture. That's a different aspect. So when 31st March 2021 is about to end, at least by February or March, the board and the CSR committee will have at least an idea how much the net profit is going to be, or are we going to fall in a net worth criteria, or are we going to fall in a turnover criteria. So based on that calculations, we need to allocate whether we need to do a spending of the CSR or not. So every year to year, every financial year, it matters, and not just 3 years. The 3-year period, I think so, the one which the audience or one of the person is questioning is when you need to calculate your CSR spending criteria of 2%, that calculation is taken of 3 preceding financial years. So for example, right now when we are in April 21, your previous 3 financial years average net profits would be calculated. So for example, if it's 10, 100 and 20, so average of those 3 years, and out of that total average, it will be 2% amount which will be required to be allocated towards CSR funds spending.
Ma'am, I have 2 questions. One is how is the profit defined? It is EBITDA or that's number one, when you said net profit. And second one is that I think apart from lawyers, I think professionals like us, chemical engineers, have a very major role to play in this area. So any comments from your side on that?
Okay. The profit which you're talking about, the third
3 years profit. Yes.
Okay. So
last 3 years profit.
Yes. So that will be the average net profit, which is calculated if you refer to section 198, there's a calculated formula. What are the things which you need to consider when you are calculating the average net profits? Because it's a proper Excel sheet when we formulate for our clients. These are the figures which you need to do, and which are the figures you don't count. And based on that average calculation, that 2% is calculated, and it's profit before tax.
Okay.
And for chemical engineers, because there is no restrictions, even a marketing person, there have been many instances whereby a person who was in marketing or was in HR or was in one of the live examples which I'm giving was a chemical engineer, and when they were allocated this CSR to be a part of CSR committee in the corporates, and they found it so interesting that they slowly started got into this, and their domain or their niche became in-house as a CSR committee member, and they were actively involved too at the ground root level in getting the projects done, getting the executions done, because that really makes you proud when you are a part of as an employee or part of a company, and you are able to give back to that society. So that really takes you to another level, not just that X number of salary which you're getting every month.
Thank you.
I had a question in respect of environment protection only. So, ma'am, I wanted to know that in your opinion, what more changes should be done to ensure that companies have a major role in environment protection? Because after all, climate change has a direct impact on the economy only. So in your opinion, alternatively, ma'am, do you think we must revisit the limits of that companies who should contribute to CSR activities and lower it to involve the smaller companies as well, as far as environment protection is concerned?
As Ashit also, he pointed out the ESG thing, the social and the governance thing, because I don't have the handy content with me. But if you have a look in the public domain on SEBI's website, they had come out with these voluntary guidelines, I guess last year or 2019, and they are making it mandatory. They might be coming out soon, making it mandatory to the listed entities. Ki the carbon footprints, the climate change, everything needs to be reported. And what is the thing which you are, setting a cap or something. So this is still in process, but as of now in the Companies Act, nothing has been, made a part of that mandatory thing. But definitely, I also completely agree that this should be a part of it. You can check it on SEBI's website also. It's a very interesting, they have come out with this report. If you can connect me on LinkedIn, I'd definitely like to share it.
Yes, ma'am, sure. And ma'am, do you think just like social stock exchange that SEBI had come up with, we must like there should all like there can also be some similar initiative wherein the companies that are contributing towards environment protection will be listed on that exchange and be able to raise more capital, like something of that sort?
I think so. The beginning has already started. So let's see how it goes. But I think so. There will be many. There's much more to this domain, because it's high time that we start giving back to the nature. We have already.
Yes. Yeah, pandemic made us realize that.
Thank you very much.